All right, let's dive into a story about a single battle that didn't just, decide a winner. It literally shaped the course of Indian history for the next 300 years. We're talking about the Second Battle of Panipat. So let's set the scene. The year is 1556. The Mughal Empire, which is still kind of new on the scene in India, is teetering on the edge of collapse. I mean, the fate of North India is literally hanging by a thread, and all eyes are turning to one single dusty battlefield. And at the heart of this massive conflict, you've got two figures who could not be more different. On one side, there's the Mughal heir, Akbar, who's just a kid, only 13 years old. And on the other side, Hemu Vikramaditya. This guy's story is wild. He went from being a common trader to a powerful king, all through his own grit and military brilliance. So you have a boy emperor versus a self-made king, and yeah, the fate of an entire empire is riding on this clash. Now, to really get why this battle was so crucial, you have to understand just how shaky the Mughal position was at this point. I mean, their new empire was seriously on the verge of just disappearing. The whole crisis just blew up with incredible speed. In January of 1556, the Mughal Emperor Humayun suddenly dies. Okay? Then, just 1 month later, his son Akbar is crowned emperor. But remember, he's only 13, way too young to actually rule or lead an army. So all the real power goes to his regent, Bayram Khan. And this right here, this sudden power vacuum, it was like an open invitation for a challenger to step up. And who was that challenger? A man named Hemu. And honestly, his story is something else. He wasn't born a prince or anything. Nope, he started out as a simple merchant. But he rose through the ranks of the Afghan rulers, eventually becoming their chief minister and their absolute top general. And listen, he wasn't just any general. The man was a military powerhouse. Get this, he had won 22 battles in a row. 22. He was just sweeping across North India, all the way from Punjab to Bengal. He was on an absolutely unstoppable winning streak. So, seeing the chaos after Humayun's death, Hemu moved with lightning speed. He didn't hesitate. He took major cities like Agra. He even conquered Delhi itself. And the Mughal commander who was supposed to defend it, Tardi Beg, he basically just ran away without a real fight. Hemu was just steamrolling the Mughal forces. After taking Delhi, Hemu makes a really bold move. He's not just acting as a general for the Afghans anymore. Oh no, he holds his own coronation at the historic Purana Kala, declares himself emperor, and takes on the ancient, legendary title of Vikramaditya. This wasn't just a rebellion, this was a direct play for the entire throne of India. So you've got Hemu, now a king, sitting in Delhi, and the Mughals had been pushed all the way back to Punjab. You just know what's coming next, right? A final winner-take-all showdown was completely inevitable. And so, on November 5th, 1556, the two armies finally faced off on the famous battlefield of Panipat. Okay, let's talk about the odds here, because the Mughals were in deep trouble. Hemu had a huge advantage. He had 30,000 soldiers compared to their 10,000. And get this, he also had over 500 war elephants. Think of them like the tanks of the 16th century. And the Mughals? They had zero. None. On paper, this should have been a walk in the park for Hemu. And where was the 13-year-old emperor during all this? Not even on the battlefield. His regent, Bayram Khan, was smart. He kept Akbar a safe 8 miles away. I mean, you can't risk your boy king getting captured or, worse, killed. So the entire weight of the Mughal Empire rested on the shoulders of the generals who were actually on the field. All right, the battle begins. Everything is on the line. And as it turns out, the fate of his empire wasn't going to be decided by troop numbers or brilliant strategy, but by one single, completely random moment. And just like everyone expected, the battle started out going Hemu's way. His army, with that terrifying charge of war elephants leading the way, was just crushing the Mughal flanks. Seriously, it looked like the Mughal Empire was about to be wiped off the map right then and there. But then, right in the middle of the chaos, with victory practically in his hands, everything changed. In a flash. So, what happened? It all came down to one single stray arrow. Can you believe it? As Hemu was on top of his war elephant, directing his troops, a random arrow flew out of the chaos and struck him right in the eye. The effect was immediate, and it was devastating. Hemu just collapsed unconscious in the seat on his elephant. And to his army on the ground, what do you think they saw? It looked like their invincible leader, their king, the guy who had won 22 battles in a row, was dead. He was just gone. That one arrow finding its target, that was the opening the Mughals were so desperately praying for. They grabbed that moment of pure chaos and turned what was an almost certain defeat into one of history's most legendary victories. The second Hemu's armies saw their leader go down, they just panicked. A stampede started. With no one giving orders, that massive, organized army completely fell apart and turned into a terrified mob. Bahram Khan saw his chance and took it, ordering a brutal, all-out charge right into the center of the confusion. And just like that, it was a swift, decisive, and total victory for Akbar. The aftermath was absolutely brutal. Hemu was captured alive, though he was still unconscious, and he was executed. And to send a clear, chilling message to anyone who might get ideas, his head was sent to Kabul, and his body was hung outside the Purana Kila in Delhi, the very same place he was crowned king. This wasn't just about revenge. It was a cold calculation. They even went after his supporters and his 82-year-old father just to make sure there would be no future challenges to Mughal rule. So when you look back at this just incredible story, what does it all mean? Well, the battle teaches us some really powerful lessons about history, about leadership, and of course, about fate. I think there are 3 big takeaways here. First, the importance of leadership is just undeniable. Hemu's army wasn't really beaten in a fight. It just crumbled the second its leader disappeared. Second, you can never, ever discount the role of pure chance. One arrow changed the future of a whole subcontinent. And finally, the stakes couldn't have been higher. This single victory put the Mughals back on the map and laid the groundwork for an empire that would last for 300 years. And that leaves us with a really fascinating question, doesn't it? Just think about it for a second. What if that stray arrow had missed by just a few inches? Would the great Mughal Empire that we all read about in history books have ever really taken off? What would the map of India even look like today? It really makes you think. History can turn on these smallest, most random moments.